I have never been in a relationship and I am starting to feel lost and losing hope in it and in me. I have been talking to a girl, but am a bit stuck. What can I do next? A little note before I begin. This account is brand new because I don't want anyone who knows me to stumble upon this and recognize me. I also feel the need to apologize in advance for any mistakes in my writing, as English is not my first language. I've done my best to express myself clearly, but if something seems confusing, I'm happy to clarify, just ask. I am a 20-year-old male college student, and I'm currently embarking on my fourth, and hopefully final, year of university. It's a significant milestone, but as I reflect on my life, one thing stands out. I have never been in a relationship. For as long as I can remember, I've observed relationships from the sidelines, always a spectator but never a participant. This reality has been a mix of personal choice, circumstances, and, perhaps, a touch of fear. I've spent hours contemplating why this is the case and, now, I want to share my thoughts. First and foremost, I have very strong opinions about relationships. To me, being with someone is deeply meaningful. It's not just about the fleeting excitement or the surface-level attractions that some of my peers seem to chase. I believe that, for a relationship to work, you need to truly know the other person, not in a superficial way, but in a way that takes time to build. I don't mean you need to know someone for 5 years before dating them, but the idea of jumping into something serious after just a few weeks of acquaintance baffles me. Many of my friends have started relationships after knowing someone for what feels like the blink of an eye, 3 or 4 weeks at most, and more often than not, these relationships fizzle out just as quickly as they began. This leads me to my first point. For me, being with someone has to be special. I can't just casually date someone because they're available or because it seems convenient. I need to genuinely like the person, and for that to happen, I need time. Time to understand who they are, what they value, and whether we connect on a level that feels authentic. The problem, however, is that as I get to know someone, I tend to develop a friendship with them first. By the time I realize I might have romantic feelings, I'm usually too entrenched in the friend zone to act on them. This fear of ruining a perfectly good friendship by confessing how I feel paralyzes me. What if I confess and things become awkward? What if I lose someone who's important to me? It's a risk I struggle to take, and more often than not, I choose to stay silent. The second point ties into my beliefs about commitment. I don't believe in what people nowadays call situationships. You know, those vague, undefined connections where two people are sort of together but not really committed. That's not for me. If I'm with someone, it's because I believe in us. I'm not looking for something temporary or half-hearted. I want a relationship where both of us are fully invested, working towards something meaningful. And because of this, I often find myself overthinking every step of the process. I scrutinize potential partners, wondering if they see relationships the same way I do. If I sense that their perspective differs significantly from mine, I hesitate to pursue anything further. At times, it feels like I'm caught in a loop, an endless cycle of hesitation, unspoken feelings, and missed opportunities. The world around me seems to move at a pace I can't quite match. People date casually, move on quickly, and often treat relationships as a game. But for me, it's different. It has to be different. I don't want to settle for something fleeting or meaningless. I want something real. Perhaps my standards are too high. Perhaps I'm too cautious. Perhaps I'm afraid. All I know is that I haven't found someone who aligns with what I'm looking for. And as the years pass, it becomes harder to shake the feeling that I might never find that person. Another challenge I face is my reluctance to embrace the typical college social scene. As a student, the expectation to attend parties, go clubbing, and immerse myself in that whirlwind of nightlife is ever present. It's practically woven into the fabric of university life. But for me, it's never been appealing. The loud music, the crowds, the alcohol-fueled conversations that rarely go beyond surface level, it's exhausting just thinking about it. Don't get me wrong, I don't judge others for enjoying these things. In fact, I sometimes envy their ease, their ability to let go and have fun without overthinking everything. But for me, it's simply not my world. This preference for quieter, more meaningful interactions has made it difficult for me to meet new people. The typical settings where college students form connections often feel like barriers rather than opportunities. And I know, believe me, I know that I'm largely to blame for this. My natural shyness acts as a wall that's hard to break through. I've always been the kind of person who overthinks their words before speaking, who hesitates to approach someone for fear of saying the wrong thing or being dismissed entirely. But I'm trying. I really am. Over the past couple of years, I've been working on stepping out of my comfort zone. I've forced myself to engage more in conversations, to put myself in situations that require me to be outgoing and talkative, even when it feels unnatural. It's a slow process, and progress is far from linear, but I'm proud of the small steps I've taken. Every time I initiate a conversation or join a group discussion, it feels like a tiny victory, a reminder that change is possible, even for someone like me. Still, despite my efforts, I find it incredibly hard to meet girls who not only share my interests but also see relationships the way I do. It's as if we're all playing entirely different games with entirely different rules. Many of the girls I've met seem to have vastly different perspectives on relationships, on what it means to have fun, and on what they value in life. It's not that their views are wrong, they're just different from mine. And that difference often feels like an unbridgeable gap. When I do find someone I feel a connection with, the cycle begins again. I like them, but the fear of ruining things or being rejected holds me back. Meanwhile, the frustrations pile up. It's hard not to feel like I'm stuck, always the person who develops feelings but never the one who gets to see those feelings turn into something more. I'm caught in this limbo between hope and reality, between wanting something and being too afraid to reach for it. And yet, I don't want to lose hope. I know I'm not perfect, far from it. I have my flaws, my insecurities, my moments of self-doubt. But who doesn't? Everyone carries their own set of imperfections. I try to remind myself that just as I see the good in others, there's good in me too. I have qualities that make me worth knowing, worth being with. I try to focus on those qualities as I work on improving the parts of myself that need growth. But sometimes, it's exhausting. The effort to be better, to put myself out there, to stay optimistic despite the setbacks, it wears me down. There are moments when I wonder if all of this is even worth it. If I'm destined to be the guy who tries but never succeeds, who watches from the sidelines while others build the connections I yearn for. Yet, even in the midst of frustration, I can't help but cling to the belief that things will change. That someday, I'll meet someone who sees the world a little like I do. Someone who values depth over fleeting thrills, who understands the importance of time and commitment. Until then, I'll keep trying. Because as much as it hurts to feel stuck, it hurts even more to give up entirely. There's a part of my story that I've often thought about but rarely shared. Non-ironically, the 2 times I've confessed my feelings for someone, it didn't just end in rejection, it ended in a kind of bewildering twist of fate. Both girls later came out as either bisexual or homosexual. It's strange to think about, and while I know their orientation wasn't something I caused or even influenced, it has left me with a lingering sense of insecurity. Rejection on its own is hard enough to process. It makes you question everything about yourself, your approach, your words, your timing. Did I misread the signs? Was it something I said? Was it the way I said it? And when rejection is followed by the revelation that the girl simply wasn't interested in men at all, the questions take on a different form. Did I always have the wrong intuition? Was there something about me that made my feelings impossible to reciprocate? The logical part of me knows these thoughts are irrational, but the emotional part can't help but carry the weight of those experiences. Those 2 moments have etched themselves into my memory in a way I can't seem to shake. They've made me hesitant, cautious, even to take risks. Because as much as I'd like to believe that love is worth the gamble, I felt the sting of falling short too many times. And yet, here I am, contemplating another leap of faith. At the moment, there's a girl I've been talking to, and I think I might actually like her. Her name isn't important, but what matters is how she slowly, unexpectedly, becomes someone I think about more than I probably should. We met in class a few months ago, in one of those ordinary, unremarkable ways that you'd never expect to lead to anything significant. At first, I didn't think much of her. She was pretty, sure, but there wasn't an immediate spark. She was just another face in a crowded lecture hall, another voice in a sea of classmates. That changed when we were paired together for a group assignment. Our group included her and a friend of hers, and over the course of a few weeks, we spent more time together than I ever would have anticipated. Working on the project meant hours of collaboration, sharing ideas, solving problems, navigating disagreements, and in that process, I got to know her. Not just as a classmate, but as a person. She was kind, with a sense of humor that was subtle but disarming. She had a way of listening that made you feel like your words mattered, even if you were just rambling about something trivial. By the time the project was finished, I considered her a friend. And for a while, that was all she was. A friend. Nothing more, nothing less. But things took a different turn this semester when she went on an Erasmus exchange program. With her abroad, I thought our connection would fade into the background like so many other fleeting friendships do. Instead, we started texting. At first, it was just small talk conversations about classes, funny memes, random updates about our day. But over time, our exchanges grew deeper. We talked about movies, music, books we loved. We shared thoughts about the things that mattered to us, the little quirks that made us who we are. And somewhere along the way, I started to feel something. It wasn't a lightning bolt moment or a sudden realization. It was gradual, like a flame that takes its time to catch. I began to see her differently, not just as a friend, but as someone I could genuinely like. She's still abroad, and she won't be back for another 2 or 3 months. That gives me time to think, perhaps too much time. The more I think about her, the more I find myself caught between hope and doubt. On one hand, I wonder if there's a chance she could feel the same way. After all, we've been talking more than ever, and the conversations feel natural, unforced. She seems to enjoy talking to me as much as I enjoy talking to her. But on the other hand, there's the voice in my head that won't let me forget the past. The voice that whispers she's out of my league, that I'm setting myself up for rejection again. What if I misread the situation? What if she's just being kind, and my feelings are nothing more than a one-sided fantasy? And so, I'm stuck. Stuck between wanting to take a chance and being too afraid to risk another failure. She'll be back soon, and when she is, I'll have to decide. Do I let her know how I feel, or do I keep it to myself and protect what we already have? For now, all I can do is wait. Wait and wonder. And maybe, just maybe, find the courage to believe that this time could be different. So, this is where I find myself now, standing at a crossroads, unsure which path to take. On one hand, there's the familiar, well-trodden road of playing it safe, keeping my feelings to myself and continuing to nurture the friendship we've built. It's the path I've walked countless times before, the one that offers the comfort of stability but leaves the ache of unspoken emotions. On the other hand, there's the road I've avoided for so long, the one that requires vulnerability, courage, and a willingness to embrace uncertainty. It's the road that could lead to something beautiful or to heartbreak. If I'm being honest, I'm terrified of both options. If I say nothing, I might lose the chance to see if there's something more between us. If I say how I feel, I might lose the connection we already have. It feels like a no-win situation, a game where every move comes with its own set of risks and rewards. And yet, I know I can't stay here forever. The clock is ticking, and in 2 months, she'll be back. When that day comes, I need to have made a decision. Do I take the leap or stay where I am? Do I allow myself to hope, or do I let fear dictate my actions once again? This is why I'm writing all of this down. Not just to vent or seek validation, but to gain clarity. I'm hoping that by putting my thoughts into words, I'll find the perspective I need to make the right choice. And maybe, just maybe, someone reading this will have the advice I've been searching for. Advice that will help me see things more clearly, that will push me to step out of my comfort zone and face whatever comes next. I know some of you might say, just go for it. What's the worst that could happen? And you'd be right, the worst that could happen is rejection. It's not the end of the world, even if it feels that way in the moment. Others might say, don't risk the friendship, it's not worth it. And I'd understand that perspective too, because friendships are precious, and losing one can be devastating. But I think what I really want, what I need, is to stop being so afraid. Afraid of rejection, afraid of failure, afraid of not being good enough. Because if I keep letting fear hold me back, I'll never know what could have been. I'll always wonder, what if? And that's a question I'm not sure I want to live with. So, if you have any advice, please share it. Be honest, even if it's harsh. Give me a sense of reality, a perspective from the outside that I can't see on my own. Tell me if I'm overthinking this, or if my instincts are worth trusting. Help me find the courage to take the next step, whatever that step might be. If you've made it this far, thank you. Truly, thank you. It means more than I can say to know that someone out there took the time to read my story, to see me not just as a collection of words on a screen, but as a person trying to navigate the complexities of life and love. I hope you have a wonderful day, wherever you are and whatever you're doing. And maybe, just maybe, one day I'll have the courage to come back here with an update, hopefully a happy one.